In our fast-paced, constantly evolving world, we often forget the wisdom of the ancient masters, the teachings that have endured for thousands of years. Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, left us with profound insights on life and living in harmony with the universe. But over time, we have drifted away from these teachings, seeking answers in distractions and external achievements. In the chaos of our daily lives, it's easy to forget the profound wisdom that Lao Tzu imparted to us. The wisdom that still holds the power to transform our lives. Lao Tzu's teachings emphasize the importance of stillness, and in a world that values constant action, noise, and movement, it becomes a challenge to grasp what stillness truly means. But Lao Tzu understood something crucial about life, something we've largely forgotten. He knew that stillness is not the absence of movement, but the space where clarity, wisdom, and true power are born. We live in a time where the pace of life is unrelenting. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, there is always something demanding our attention. The noise, the demands, the endless list of tasks, all seem to pull us further away from ourselves. It feels as if we must always be doing, always be busy, always be striving to reach some goal or destination. This relentless pursuit of activity becomes a source of stress and confusion. In the rush to achieve, we overlook the power of pause. We forget that in stillness, there is not only rest, but also a profound sense of alignment and understanding. Lao Tzu teaches us that true power is not about external force or action, but about the internal strength that comes from stillness. When the mind is quiet, when the body is still, we allow the natural order of things to reveal themselves. In the absence of constant noise, we can hear the deeper truths that lie within us. It is only when we stop forcing and pushing against the currents of life that we can see the way forward with clarity. This stillness is not a void, it is a space full of potential, a space where the answers we seek can be found without effort. In our modern lives, we have become disconnected from this power. We mistake busyness for productivity and noise for progress. The culture we live in teaches us to fill every moment with activity, to always be busy, always moving, always striving. But Lao Tzu knew that true wisdom does not come from constant action. It comes from the ability to step back, to pause, to create the space necessary for clarity and insight to arise. This is not to say that action is unnecessary or undesirable, but that the quality of our actions depends on the stillness that precedes them. The stillness creates a foundation, a solid ground from which we can act with purpose and alignment. When we take the time to be still, we allow ourselves to reconnect with the essence of who we truly are. We stop chasing the fleeting distractions of the outside world and turn inward to find the peace that is always available to us. In this stillness, we remember that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. We are connected to the natural flow of life, to the rhythms of the universe. Just as the ocean is still in its depths, even while its surface may be tumultuous, we too have the ability to find that deep peace within us, no matter what chaos may be happening around us. Stillness is the space where we can hear the voice of our intuition. It is where we can access our inner wisdom, the part of us that knows what is best, what is true, and what is aligned with our highest purpose. In a world full of distractions and competing voices, it can be difficult to hear this inner guidance. But when we cultivate stillness, we create the conditions for that voice to be heard clearly. We begin to understand that the answers to our most pressing questions are not out there in the noise and busyness of life, but within us. Lao Tzu's teachings remind us that the wisdom we seek is always accessible, but only when we are still enough to receive it. Stillness also teaches us patience. It allows us to let go of the need to control everything, to force outcomes, to always be striving for something more. In stillness, we learn to trust the natural flow of life, to understand that not everything needs to be forced or hurried. Just as the seasons change in their own time, we too must learn to trust in the timing of our lives. There is no need to rush, no need to push against the natural rhythm of things. When we are still, we understand that everything unfolds in its own time, and that the best course of action is often the one that comes naturally, without force. The power of stillness is also deeply connected to the concept of acceptance. In the stillness, we stop resisting what is, and we learn to accept the present moment as it is. This does not mean resignation or passivity, but rather an acceptance of the flow of life as it unfolds. When we resist what is happening, we create internal conflict. But when we embrace the present moment with openness and acceptance, we allow ourselves to flow with life rather than against it. Lao Tzu's wisdom teaches us that when we stop resisting and start accepting, we create the space for peace and harmony to enter our lives. The importance of stillness is not just philosophical, it has practical implications for how we live. In our interactions with others, in our work, in our decision-making, stillness allows us to act from a place of clarity and inner calm. It helps us make better decisions because we are no longer driven by anxiety, stress, or fear. Instead, we are guided by wisdom, intuition, and an understanding of the bigger picture. In relationships, stillness allows us to listen deeply, to truly hear others without the constant noise of our own thoughts and judgments. It enables us to respond from a place of compassion and understanding rather than reaction. The stillness that Lao Tzu speaks of is not an abstract concept or a distant ideal. It is something that we can practice in our daily lives. It is found in the quiet moments, in the pauses between actions, in the moments of reflection and breath. It is not about waiting for the perfect conditions to be still, but about creating the conditions for stillness within ourselves. We can begin by simply taking a few moments each day to quiet the mind, to sit in silence, to connect with our breath, and to allow ourselves to be present without distraction. Over time, this practice of stillness becomes a part of who we are, and we begin to experience the profound peace and clarity that come with it. When we return to stillness, we return to ourselves. We reconnect with our essence, with the wisdom that lies within us, and with the natural flow of life. In the quiet, we find our strength. In the pause, we find our power. Stillness is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the space where life unfolds effortlessly, and where we discover the deep peace that comes from being in alignment with the universe. Lao Tzu's teachings remind us that in stillness, we find not only our true selves, but also the way forward. This is the wisdom of stillness that Lao Tzu knew, and it is the wisdom we must remember if we are to live in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. Let us not forget that in the quiet moments, in the stillness, we find everything we need. In our world today, we are constantly driven by the desire to achieve, to do more, to accumulate, and to succeed. There is a sense of urgency that pushes us to take action at all times, to make things happen, and to force progress. But Lao Tzu offers us a profound lesson in non-action, a concept that may seem counterintuitive in a world where action is seen as the key to success. Lao Tzu's idea of Wu Wei, non-action, is not about doing nothing, but rather about engaging with life in a way that is in harmony with its natural flow. It is about understanding that the most powerful and effective actions are often those that arise spontaneously and naturally, without force, pressure, or resistance. Non-action is not about passivity or laziness as it is often misunderstood. Instead, it refers to the ability to act in accordance with the natural order of things, to respond to life's circumstances with grace and without effort. In modern life, we are taught that success requires continuous, relentless action. that we must always be doing something in order to move forward. But Lao Tzu knew that this kind of constant striving only leads to burnout and frustration. When we act from a place of force, when we try to control every aspect of our lives and the world around us, we inevitably create resistance and obstacles. This resistance depletes our energy and prevents us from achieving true progress. The principle of non-action teaches us to let go of the need to control everything. It encourages us to trust that things will unfold as they should, and that we do not have to force outcomes. It is a reminder that the universe, or life itself, has its own natural flow, and when we align ourselves with it, our actions become more effortless and effective. Lao Tzu likens this to water, which is soft yet incredibly powerful. Water does not force its way through obstacles. It flows around them, finding the path of least resistance. In the same way, non-action is about finding the most natural and harmonious way to move through life, without pushing against the currents or forcing things to happen. To embrace non-action, we must learn to release our attachment to outcomes. Too often, we become fixated on achieving a specific result, and in doing so, we create anxiety and stress. When we are attached to a particular outcome, we lose sight of the present moment, and our actions become driven by fear and impatience. Lao Tzu teaches us that when we release our attachment to results and simply focus on the process, we allow ourselves to be more in tune with the natural flow of things. By doing so, we open ourselves to unexpected opportunities and outcomes that we might otherwise miss if we were too focused on forcing a specific result. Non-action also involves cultivating patience. In a world that values speed and instant gratification, patience is a virtue that is often overlooked. Lao Tzu reminds us that things take time to unfold, and that rushing through life or trying to hurry the process only leads to frustration. Just as a plant needs time to grow, so too does our personal growth, our relationships, and our success. When we trust the timing of life and allow things to unfold in their own time, we create space for true growth and transformation. At the core of non-action is the understanding that we are not separate from the world around us, but rather part of it. Everything is interconnected, and when we act in harmony with the natural world, we create a sense of flow and alignment in our lives. Lao Tzu's concept of non-action is deeply rooted in the Tao, the natural way of the universe. The Tao is not something that can be forced or controlled. It is the spontaneous unfolding of life itself. By aligning ourselves with the Tao, we align ourselves with the flow of life, and our actions become more effective and in harmony with the world around us. This does not mean that we should sit back and wait for life to happen to us. Non-action is not about passivity or inaction. It is about acting from a place of alignment and awareness. It is about being present in the moment, fully engaged in the process, and responding to the circumstances as they arise, without forcing or controlling them. When we act from this place of non-action, our actions are guided by wisdom, intuition, and a deep understanding of the natural flow of things. We no longer act out of fear or desperation, but out of a sense of purpose and clarity. The beauty of non-action is that it leads to greater effectiveness in the long run. When we stop forcing things and start responding to life with awareness and grace, we find that our efforts yield better results. This is because our actions are no longer driven by the need to control or manipulate the outcome. Instead, they come from a place of trust, patience, and alignment with the flow of life. Lao Tzu's teachings remind us that the most powerful actions are those that arise naturally without effort or force. In our daily lives, embracing non-action can be as simple as stepping back and allowing ourselves to be present in the moment, rather than constantly rushing to achieve something or get somewhere. It can mean letting go of the need to control every situation and instead responding to life with an open heart and a calm mind. It can also mean recognizing that sometimes the best course of action is not to act at all, but to wait for the right moment to respond. By embracing non-action, we begin to understand that life is not about forcing our will onto the world, but about flowing with it, allowing it to unfold in its own time and in its own way. Lao Tzu's wisdom is a powerful reminder that we do not need to fight against life or push for things to happen. When we stop forcing and start flowing, we find that life becomes easier, more fulfilling, and more aligned with our true purpose. Non-action is not about doing less. It is about doing more with less effort, with greater awareness, and with a deeper sense of connection to the natural flow of life. As we embrace this principle, we begin to experience the true power of living in harmony with the Tao. And in doing so, we unlock a deeper sense of peace, fulfillment, and success. In the end, Lao Tzu's message of non-action is a call to trust life and to act with grace and patience. It is a reminder that the most powerful and effective actions are often those that arise naturally, without force, and that when we align ourselves with the flow of life, we move through the world with ease and clarity. Let go of the need to control and allow life to unfold in its own perfect way. This is the essence of non-action, and it is through this wisdom that we can truly find peace and fulfillment. Lao Tzu's wisdom is timeless, and one of the key aspects of his teachings that we often forget in our modern lives is the power of simplicity. We live in a world that constantly urges us to do more, to acquire more, and to achieve more. The idea of simplicity, of living with less, seems to go against everything we are taught. We are conditioned to believe that more is better, that accumulating things, experiences, and accomplishments will bring us happiness and fulfillment. But Lao Tzu knew that the path to peace and contentment does not lie in complexity, but in simplicity. The more we simplify, the more we reconnect with the essence of life itself. In today's world, we are surrounded by distractions, noise, and constant stimulation. Our lives are cluttered with material possessions, endless to-do lists, and an overwhelming amount of information. We are constantly trying to keep up with the demands of society, the expectations of others, and our own desires for success and achievement. This constant busyness and accumulation can easily lead to burnout and a sense of emptiness. Despite all the things we collect, we still feel incomplete, as if we are missing something important. Lao Tzu's teachings remind us that true happiness and fulfillment are not found in the accumulation of things, but in the ability to let go of unnecessary clutter and return to the basics of life. Simplicity does not mean deprivation or poverty, but rather an understanding that what we truly need is far less than what we often think. When we strip away the excess, we make space for what really matters: our relationships, our inner peace, and our connection to the world around us. We find that our lives become clearer, more focused, and more meaningful. To embrace simplicity, we must first recognize that much of the complexity in our lives is self-imposed. We create complications by attaching ourselves to things, people, and desires that do not truly serve us. We hold on to possessions that we don't need, chase after goals that aren't aligned with our true values, and fill our time with activities that do not bring us joy or fulfillment. The more we accumulate, the more we have to manage, the more we have to worry about. Simplicity, then, is not just about having fewer things, but about creating space in our lives for what truly nourishes us. It is about focusing on the essential and letting go of the unnecessary. The beauty of simplicity is that it allows us to experience life more fully. When we simplify our surroundings, our schedules, and our minds, we become more present to the world around us. We begin to notice the small details that we might have overlooked in the past. The beauty of nature, the warmth of a smile, the quiet moments of connection with others. In a world that is constantly rushing toward the next goal or achievement, simplicity offers us the opportunity to slow down and truly experience the present moment. Simplicity also teaches us to value what is truly important. It helps us to distinguish between what we want and what we need. In a culture that is constantly pushing us to strive for more, we often lose sight of the things that bring us the most joy and satisfaction. We chase after material wealth, social status, and external validation, believing that these things will bring us happiness. But Lao Tzu's wisdom reminds us that the most important things in life, love, peace, joy, and connection, are not found in external achievements or possessions. They come from within, and they are always available to us, no matter our circumstances. When we simplify our lives, we make room for these deeper, more meaningful experiences. We let go of the need for approval or recognition, and we begin to appreciate the simple pleasures of life. We find joy in the small moments, a quiet evening with loved ones, a walk in the park, a moment of stillness. These are the moments that fill our lives with true richness, not the accumulation of things or accolades. Simplicity also encourages us to focus on quality rather than quantity. In a world where we are constantly told to do more, to be more, and to have more, simplicity invites us to slow down and be more intentional with our actions. Rather than spreading ourselves thin across 100 different activities, we can focus our energy on the things that truly matter. We can put more effort into the things that align with our values and passions and let go of the things that drain our energy or distract us from our true purpose. This shift in focus allows us to experience life more fully and deeply. Instead of rushing from one task to the next, we can approach each moment with intention and presence. We can give our full attention to the people and activities that are most important to us, and we can cultivate a deeper sense of meaning in everything we do. By focusing on quality over quantity, we find that our lives become richer and more fulfilling, even without the endless pursuit of more. Simplicity is also about inner clarity. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, it is easy to become overwhelmed by external influences. We are bombarded with opinions, advertisements, and expectations that can cloud our judgment and prevent us from seeing clearly. When we simplify our lives, we reduce the clutter in our minds and hearts, allowing us to gain clarity on what truly matters. We become less affected by the opinions of others and more in tune with our own inner voice. Simplicity helps us to see things as they truly are, without the distortion of outside pressures or distractions. One of the greatest benefits of simplicity is the freedom it brings. When we let go of the need to constantly acquire, achieve, and accumulate, we free ourselves from the chains of comparison and competition. We no longer feel the pressure to keep up with others or measure our worth by external standards. We are liberated from the burden of constantly striving for more, and we can instead focus on living in alignment with our true values. Simplicity gives us the freedom to live authentically, without the weight of expectations or the need to prove ourselves to others. The practice of simplicity is not always easy, especially in a society that constantly encourages us to do more, be more, and have more. But it is a practice that can transform our lives in profound ways. By simplifying our surroundings, our schedules, and our minds, we make space for what truly matters. We cultivate a deeper sense of peace, contentment, and fulfillment, and we reconnect with the essence of who we are. Lao Tzu's wisdom reminds us that less is more, and that the more we simplify our lives, the more we open ourselves to the beauty and richness that already exists within us and around us. In the end, simplicity is not about deprivation or scarcity, but about returning to what is essential, what is true, and what is nourishing. It is about letting go of the unnecessary and embracing the richness of life that comes from living with clarity, purpose, and presence. As we simplify our lives, we begin to experience the fullness of life in a way that we never could while chasing after more. Through simplicity, we find not only peace and joy, but also the true meaning of life itself. One of the most profound aspects of Lao Tzu's philosophy is his understanding of the natural order of life and the importance of living in harmony with it. In our modern world, we are often disconnected from nature and the rhythms that govern it. We tend to think of ourselves as separate from the world around us, as if we can control and manipulate everything to our will. However, Lao Tzu teaches us that true wisdom comes from understanding that we are a part of this vast, interconnected web of life. When we live in accordance with the natural flow of the world, we find peace, balance, and fulfillment. The key to this understanding lies in the concept of embracing the flow of life and trusting the natural unfolding of events. In a world that constantly pushes us to be in control, to plan, and to predict every outcome, Lao Tzu's wisdom calls us to surrender to the natural flow of things. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or effort, but rather letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives. We are taught that in order to succeed, we must constantly strive and exert force. But Lao Tzu shows us that sometimes the most powerful way to move forward is to relax, trust, and let life unfold as it is meant to. There is a beauty in this surrender, a quiet strength that comes from accepting the natural flow rather than resisting it. One of the key components of this flow is the recognition that life is constantly changing. We live in a world of impermanence where everything is in a state of flux. The seasons change, people come and go, and situations evolve in ways that we cannot always predict. Lao Tzu's teachings remind us that change is not something to fear or resist, but rather something to embrace. When we try to hold on to the past or cling to what is familiar, we create resistance, which only leads to frustration and suffering. True wisdom lies in recognizing that change is a natural part of life and learning to flow with it. We are often taught that in order to succeed, we must plan meticulously, make detailed strategies, and control every variable. While planning and preparation have their place, Lao Tzu's wisdom encourages us to step back and observe the bigger picture. Sometimes the best way to approach life is to allow things to unfold naturally, without forcing them into a specific mold. This does not mean that we should be passive or lazy, but rather that we should learn to respond to life as it comes, rather than trying to control every outcome. When we allow life to unfold naturally, we create space for things to come into our lives in their own time and way. This approach to life requires trust. It is about having faith in the process and knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. Trusting the natural flow of life means trusting ourselves, our intuition, and the wisdom that comes from within. It is a deep recognition that we are part of something much greater than ourselves, and that when we allow ourselves to move with the rhythm of the universe, we find ourselves in alignment with our true purpose. This trust is not something that can be forced. It comes from a deep understanding that life is not something to be controlled, but something to be experienced and embraced. When we live in harmony with the natural flow, we find that our actions become more effortless and effective. Lao Tzu often compares this to the way water flows, without resistance, yet incredibly powerful. Water does not force its way through obstacles. It simply moves around them, finding the path of least resistance. In the same way, When we align ourselves with the natural flow of life, our actions become more fluid, more in tune with the world around us, and more successful in the long run. There is a power in non-resistance, a power that comes from allowing things to unfold naturally rather than trying to force them into a specific outcome. One of the greatest challenges of embracing the natural flow of life is our tendency to control everything around us. We want to plan every detail, predict every outcome, and ensure that things go according to our expectations. But life does not work this way. We cannot control the wind, the rain, or the seasons, and we cannot control the actions of others or the unfolding of events in the world. Lao Tzu teaches us that true wisdom comes from accepting this lack of control and learning to move with the currents of life rather than trying to fight against them. To live in harmony with the flow of life requires patience. We must learn to wait for the right moment and trust that everything will unfold in its own time. This patience is not about sitting idly and doing nothing, but rather about being present in the moment, responding to life as it comes, and waiting for the right opportunities to arise. Just as a plant needs time to grow, so too does our personal growth and the unfolding of our goals. When we are patient, we allow life to unfold at its own pace, and we trust that the right opportunities will come to us when the time is right. Embracing the flow of life also means recognizing that not everything will go according to plan. Life is unpredictable, and we cannot control every aspect of it. However, Lao Tzu's wisdom teaches us that this unpredictability